What if the echoes of Waterloo told a different tale? Imagine Napoleon, not vanquished but victorious, his eagles soaring over a subjugated Europe. The familiar maps of history books crumble, replaced by a continent reshaped in the image of a Napoleonic empire. The revolutions and historical changes we study, the rise of nations, the spread of democracy, all take a drastically different turn. Are you ready to witness the domino effect of a single altered moment? This isn't just a theoretical exercise, it's a journey into a world where the very foundations of modern Europe are shaken. Forget the Congress of Vienna, the rise of Prussia, and the British dominance of the 19th century. Instead, prepare for an era defined by Napoleonic ambition, the suppression of dissent, and the constant threat of war. The story we're about to unfold will explore the lives of individuals caught in this alternate reality, their dreams, their fears, their struggles for survival, and the excruciating decisions they confront will illustrate the human cost of a world dominated by imperial ambition. How would nationalism evolve under French dominion? How would the seeds of revolution either flourish or wither in this new order? Prepare to witness the agonizing choices faced by those living in the shadow of the eagle. You'll gain a new appreciation for the delicate balance of power that shaped our world. We'll consider how this altered timeline forces us to reevaluate our understanding of freedom, oppression, and the enduring impact of pivotal events in shaping the trajectory of historical change, revealing how profoundly a single battle can reshape the destiny of nations and individuals alike. The Napoleonic Wars, a period of intense upheaval and revolutionary change, fundamentally reshaped the political landscape of Europe. At its heart was Napoleon Bonaparte, a military genius whose ambition threatened to engulf the entire continent. The Battle of Waterloo in 1815 stands as a pivotal moment, marking the end of his reign and ushering in an era of relative peace and conservative restoration. But what if that outcome had been reversed? To understand the magnitude of a Napoleonic victory at Waterloo, we must consider the existing power dynamics. Great Britain, with its powerful navy and vast colonial empire, was the dominant economic and maritime force. Prussia, a rising military power, was eager to assert its influence in Central Europe. Austria, the aging Habsburg Empire, sought to maintain its control over a diverse array of territories. Napoleon's defeat was crucial to maintaining the balance of power between these competing interests. The problem is, history as we know it presents only one side of the coin. It neglects to ask critical questions about the roads not taken. By exploring an alternate timeline, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the fragility of historical events and the profound impact of individual decisions. Visual aids depicting the pre-Waterloo map of Europe and key figures like Wellington, Napoleon, and Blucher could help contextualize the discussion. Our exploration addresses the need to understand historical contingency, the idea that history could have unfolded in countless different ways. A Napoleonic victory at Waterloo would not merely be a reversal of fortune. It would trigger a cascade of events, redrawing borders, reshaping alliances, and altering the course of revolutions and historical changes for generations to come. By grappling with this what-if, we confront the enduring questions about power, freedom, and the human cost of ambition. Intrigued by this alternate reality? Dive deeper. Share your thoughts and what-if scenarios in the comments below. Let's build this Napoleonic world together. Your insights are invaluable, fueling our exploration of history's turning points. Subscribe and join the conversation to reshape the past. Let's dissect the potential ramifications of Napoleon's victory at Waterloo. Our goal is to move beyond speculation and understand the concrete ways this altered outcome would have reshaped Europe. We'll achieve this by focusing on key areas: political structures, economic systems, and social movements. Consider it a historical thought experiment, grounded in the realities of the 19th century. First, we examine the political landscape. Napoleon, victorious, would likely install puppet regimes across Europe, staffed by loyal Bonapartists. A practical step for understanding this is to research the existing Napoleonic client states, such as the Kingdom of Italy or the Confederation of the Rhine. Understanding their structures provides insight into the potential governance of a Napoleonic Europe. What legal and political models would he impose? Second, the economic consequences. Napoleon's continental system designed to cripple Britain would become even more critical. Understanding its impact requires examining trade patterns and economic policies of the era. How would this affect industrial development in various regions? What new trade routes and economic alliances would emerge? Consider researching the impact of smuggling and black markets as resistance to the system grew. Third, social movements. Nationalism, already a potent force, would be both suppressed and fueled by Napoleon's dominance. To grasp this, research the various nationalist movements of the 19th century, like the Italian Risorgimento or the German Wehrmachts. How would these movements adapt to a Napoleonic Europe? Would they align with or resist French rule? Could there be new forms of social unrest that emerge? By exploring these three key areas, we gain actionable insights into the complex consequences of a Napoleonic victory. These steps allow us to envision a truly altered future. In a world grappling with rising nationalism and shifting global power dynamics, understanding the fragility of historical outcomes is more critical than ever. We are witnessing a resurgence of populist movements, challenges to established international norms, and even open conflicts that echo the power struggles of the past. The core problem is a lack of historical perspective, a failure to recognize the consequences of unchecked ambition and the enduring appeal of authoritarianism. Consider the recent annexation of territory, the erosion of democratic institutions in some nations, or the increasing use of propaganda and disinformation to manipulate public opinion. These trends parallel the challenges faced by those living under Napoleonic rule. Understanding how resistance movements emerged, how alliances shifted, and how individual freedoms were curtailed provides a valuable framework for analyzing contemporary events. The urgency lies in the fact that history, while not repeating itself exactly, often rhymes. By examining the potential consequences of a Napoleonic victory at Waterloo, we can gain insights into the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of safeguarding democratic values. The knowledge gap lies in the assumption that history is a fixed and predetermined narrative. Exploring alternate timelines challenges this assumption and encourages critical thinking about the present. Understanding the potential for drastically different outcomes encourages us to question the narratives presented to us and to recognize the agency we have in shaping the future. Studying Napoleon's rise and potential continued reign sheds light on our current world. Analyzing the suppression of dissenting voices, the manipulation of information, and the economic consequences of imperial expansion gives us vital context for making informed decisions about the challenges we face today. Learning from a what-if allows us to protect ourselves from repeating mistakes. To fully grasp the implications of a Napoleonic victory at Waterloo, we need to establish some foundational knowledge. First, understand the concept of hegemony. Hegemony refers to the dominance of one state or group over others. In our timeline, Britain achieved hegemonic status in the 19th century. A victorious Napoleon would have challenged that, establishing French hegemony instead. Think of it as a global chessboard, with France controlling more pieces. Second, the concert of Europe. This was the system of alliances designed to maintain peace after Napoleon's defeat. Imagine a delicate web holding Europe together. A Napoleonic victory would have shattered this web, leading to new alliances and rivalries. Would a concert of Europe, designed to contain France, even be possible in an alternate timeline? What new power blocks might emerge? Third, nationalism. This powerful ideology fueled both Napoleon's rise and the resistance against him. Nationalism is the belief that a nation should have its own independent state. A map visualizing the distribution of different ethnic and linguistic groups in 19th century Europe would be incredibly helpful here. How would a Napoleonic empire deal with this rising tide of nationalism? Would it attempt to assimilate different cultures into a French model, or would it use nationalism to its advantage, creating puppet states based on ethnic identity? Fourth, the continental system. This was Napoleon's attempt to economically isolate Britain, a chart illustrating trade flows before and after the implementation of the continental system would show its effectiveness. If it succeeded after Waterloo, what industries would thrive in France and which would collapse in Britain? Fifth, liberalism versus conservatism. Liberalism was on the rise, but conservatism was still very powerful in 1815. So would Napoleon becoming victorious mean liberalism would take a great leap forward, or would it lead to an age of more conflict and even more wars? By understanding these 5 concepts, we can begin to analyze the complex ways in which a Napoleonic victory at Waterloo would have altered the course of European and world history. Let's move from theory to application. How might a Napoleonic Europe function in practice, and what challenges would it face? Consider the application of the continental system. While designed to cripple Britain, it would create widespread resentment and smuggling networks across Europe. One strategy for Napoleon would be to offer incentives to compliant nations, like preferential trade agreements or infrastructure projects, to ensure their loyalty. This would require a sophisticated understanding of regional economies and political dynamics. Another challenge would be managing nationalism. Suppressing nationalist movements through military force would be costly and ultimately unsustainable. A more effective strategy might involve co-opting nationalism, creating satellite states with limited autonomy, and promoting a sense of shared identity under French leadership. This would require careful manipulation of symbols, propaganda, and education. Consider the practical example of Italy. Would Napoleon unify Italy under a Bonapartist monarch, or would he keep it divided into smaller states, easier to control? The decision would depend on his assessment of Italian nationalism and his strategic goals for the region. Either way, he'd have to manage both the aspirations of Italian patriots and the resistance of those who opposed French rule. The British response presents another challenge. While unable to directly confront Napoleon on the continent, Britain would continue to support resistance movements through covert operations and naval blockades. To counter this, Napoleon would need to invest heavily in his navy and intelligence services, attempting to disrupt British supply lines and expose British agents. This would lead to a protracted and costly struggle with no clear end in sight. Ultimately, Napoleon would have to use propaganda, intelligence gathering, and a strong army. Beyond the immediate challenges of consolidating power, a victorious Napoleon would face deeper, more systemic issues demanding innovative solutions. One advanced strategy involves understanding the long-term importance of soft power. While Napoleon demonstrably excelled at military conquest, the application of hard power, he often struggled to cultivate genuine loyalty and win hearts and minds across his vast domain. To build a truly lasting and stable empire, he would inevitably need to invest strategically in cultural diplomacy, actively promoting the French language, the nation's celebrated artistic heritage, and its advanced education system across Europe. This paradigm shift would necessitate a fundamental change in mindset, moving away from a sole reliance on military dominance and embracing the more nuanced art of cultural influence, subtly shaping perceptions and fostering a sense of shared identity. Consider the complex case study presented by the Napoleonic Code. While this legal framework was initially welcomed in many quarters as a progressive reform, bringing with it principles of equality before the law and standardized procedures, its often heavy-handed imposition frequently led to widespread resentment and staunch resistance, particularly in regions with deeply entrenched local customs and traditions. An advanced and more nuanced strategy would involve carefully adapting the Napoleonic Code to better reflect these diverse local realities, creating a hybrid legal system that skillfully balanced core French principles with the unique needs and long-held values of each region. This delicate balancing act would demand careful negotiation and compromise, qualities that, historically, were not always readily associated with Napoleon's leadership style. Another intriguing and often overlooked question is how the deeply conservative Russian Orthodox Church would adapt and cope in a scenario where Russia found itself under Napoleon's extended influence or even direct control. Ultimately, the enduring success and stability of a Napoleonic Europe would hinge on Napoleon's capacity to learn from the strategic missteps and tactical errors that characterized his past campaigns. He would need to cultivate a more pragmatic and flexible approach to governance, demonstrating a greater willingness to engage in meaningful compromise and actively listen to the concerns of those he ruled. This would entail finding a delicate balance between firmly asserting French dominance and showing genuine respect for the diverse cultures, long-held traditions, and unique identities of the various nations and peoples under his control. One could argue that, to truly succeed in this challenging endeavor, Napoleon would, in effect, have to transform himself into something akin to a philosopher king, ruling not just with military might, but with a deep commitment to logic, reason, and unwavering pragmatism, placing the long-term interests of his empire above short-term personal gains. Historical research offers valuable insights into the viability of a lasting Napoleonic empire. Historian David Bell, in his book Napoleon: A Concise Biography, argues that Napoleon's ambition was ultimately his downfall. Bell suggests that Napoleon's insatiable desire for conquest alienated potential allies and fueled relentless opposition. A victory at Waterloo, while initially strengthening his position, wouldn't have fundamentally altered this character trait. This reinforces the idea that long-term stability would require a shift in mindset. Data on the continental system further supports this claim. According to economic historian François Crouzet, the continental system, while initially harming British trade, ultimately backfired. Creuset's research shows that it disrupted European economies, leading to smuggling, resentment, and ultimately weakening Napoleon's control. This suggests that a more nuanced economic policy, one that considered the needs of individual regions, would have been necessary for a sustainable empire. Anecdotal evidence also highlights the challenges of imposing French culture on diverse populations. Accounts from the period describe widespread resistance to the Napoleonic Code in regions with strong local traditions. This resistance, often passive but persistent, undermined French authority and fueled nationalist sentiment. Expert opinions from historians specializing in nationalism, such as Benedict Anderson, emphasize the powerful role of shared culture and identity in mobilizing resistance against imperial rule. Anderson's concept of imagined communities highlights the difficulty of imposing a single French identity on diverse populations with their own distinct histories and traditions. The real-world implications of understanding this alternate history are significant. By analyzing the factors that led to Napoleon's downfall in our timeline, and considering how those factors might have played out in a scenario where he won at Waterloo, we gain valuable insights into the challenges of empire building, the importance of cultural sensitivity, and the enduring power of nationalism. This knowledge can inform our understanding of contemporary geopolitical dynamics and the challenges facing leaders today. We've explored the what if of a Napoleonic victory at Waterloo, but what actionable insights can we glean? What about the questions that emerged earlier? Could nationalism truly be co-opted? Could the continental system ever truly work? Ultimately, the answer lies in adaptability and understanding the human element. Historians like Margaret Macmillan author of Paris 1919, emphasized the importance of empathy in international relations. Macmillan notes that leaders who fail to understand the perspectives and needs of other nations are doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past. A victorious Napoleon, to succeed long-term, would have needed to cultivate this empathy, something his track record suggests he lacked. Consider the numbers. Napoleon's Grande Armée, at its peak, numbered over 600,000 men, a testament to his military might. Yet his invasion of Russia, with nearly 500,000 soldiers, resulted in catastrophic losses, with fewer than 100,000 returning. This illustrates the limitations of military power in the face of logistical challenges and national resistance. To truly establish dominance, he'd have to reduce conflict and increase shared ideals. Addressing the earlier doubt about the continental system, consider that smuggling accounted for an estimated 20 to 40% of European trade during its implementation. This suggests that economic coercion alone is rarely effective and can often backfire, creating unintended consequences. The key takeaway is that a lasting Napoleonic empire would have required more than military victories and economic manipulation. It would have demanded a fundamental shift in Napoleon's approach from dominance to diplomacy, from coercion to cooperation. The actionable insight is that understanding human needs and cultural sensitivities is essential for any leader seeking to build a lasting and stable order, whether in the 19th century or today. We've journeyed into an alternate timeline where Napoleon triumphed at Waterloo, exploring the potential consequences for Europe and the world. We've seen how military dominance alone isn't enough to build a lasting empire, and how understanding human needs and cultural sensitivities is crucial for long-term stability. The key takeaway is that history is not predetermined, and the choices we make today can have profound ripple effects. The benefits of applying these insights are clear. By understanding the challenges faced by Napoleon, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the complexities of international relations, the dangers of unchecked ambition, and the importance of safeguarding democratic values. This knowledge can inform our understanding of current events and empower us to make more informed decisions about the future. What are your next steps? First, delve deeper into the history of the Napoleonic era. Read biographies of key figures, study the economic and social conditions of the time, and explore the perspectives of those who lived through it. Second, apply these insights to contemporary challenges. Analyze current events through the lens of historical contingency, considering the potential consequences of different choices and actions. Most importantly, engage in critical thinking and open dialogue. Share your thoughts and perspectives with others, challenge assumptions and question narratives. By doing so, you can become a more informed and engaged citizen, contributing to a more peaceful and just world. Share your insights on social media using Napoleonic What If, and let's continue the conversation. History is a living, breathing thing, and it's up to us to shape its future. As we close the book on this alternate yet intensely relevant chapter of history, always remember that the past is far from a settled matter. Its echoes invariably resonate profoundly in the present, subtly yet powerfully shaping our fundamental understanding of power dynamics, the elusive nature of freedom, and ultimately the complex tapestry of the human condition itself. The very act of imagining a Napoleonic victory at Waterloo compels each of us to confront the often uncomfortable truth that history is not a predetermined linear march towards inevitable progress, but rather a complex and often chaotic series of contingent events, heavily shaped by the individual choices of key figures and the relentless, often unpredictable forces of circumstance. The enduring dreams of a unified and genuinely democratic Europe, the deeply held aspirations for national self-determination in all corners of the globe, and the ongoing, often arduous struggle for individual liberty and fundamental human rights. These are not preordained or inevitable outcomes guaranteed by some unseen force. Instead, they are precious and fragile ideals that must be constantly defended, actively nurtured, and resolutely fought for, lest they be carelessly swept away by the relentless tides of unchecked ambition, systemic oppression, and the seductive allure of authoritarianism. The captivating yet cautionary tale of a victorious Napoleon serves as a stark and enduring reminder of the inherent fragility of these vital ideals and the paramount importance of unwavering vigilance in their defense. Let this exploration serve as a powerful inspiration for you to become a more deeply informed and actively engaged citizen of the world, to cultivate a healthy skepticism and thoughtfully question the narratives presented to you by those in positions of authority, and above all, to fully recognize the considerable agency and potential influence that each of us possesses in actively shaping the future of our shared global community. Commit to continually exploring the intricate complexities of history, to rigorously analyze the daunting challenges we collectively face in the world today, and to tirelessly strive towards the realization of a world where the universally cherished values of freedom, genuine equality, and unwavering justice ultimately prevail for all. For in the final analysis, the future is not simply something that passively happens to us. It is instead something that we actively create, shape, and mold through our individual and collective actions. The pen wielded by the historian is undoubtedly a powerful instrument, but the deliberate actions we undertake in the present moment are, without question, even more so.